Okay, you obviously have not read my dossier. I have bird blindness.
Welcome to Decoding TV's coverage of Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 2, A Man is Only as Good as His Bird. Patrick Klepek, overall thoughts on this episode?
I think this season is going to be sad, David.
Wow.
It feels like
Really?
that is the emotional trajectory of Peacemaker Season 2. I feel like there's going to be a lot of sad characters, real melancholy feeling by the end. Hard for me to imagine a world where there isn't a lot of both bloodshed, physically and emotionally by the end of this season. But I broadly really enjoyed the second episode of the show. I don't know that I'm enjoying it as much as I enjoyed season 1 of Peacemaker. I think part of that is just the novelty of the tone and approach of the first season of Peacemaker was so just interesting and fascinating. And I think part of what's happening here is like part of my interest in the Gunn universe is just Gunn's overall tone. And that's in contrast to like Marvel's approach, right? And eventually you're going to get so much of that tone that it becomes its own tone that you experience many, many times. And it's going to come down to the storytelling and the characters more than just the brashness and the shock value. And I have confidence in Gunn having interesting things to say. And I'm curious to see what those things are as we go along. But yeah, broadly, like this episode, that's the best clip of the Tim Meadows stuff. The rest of Tim Meadows, I don't know that it worked for me all that well, but I'm curious to see what you've made of it so far and where you landed on this episode.
I'm having a blast with this show. I mean, this episode was a little bit slight, like not that much happened in this episode. Kind of a transition episode. But the show continues to be extremely goofy and silly, and it's really leading into that, and I'm having fun with it. So, not like the best episode or anything, but it's an enjoyable episode, and it kind of like sets up where we're going next with the show. So we'll talk about, I have a rundown here. Not that many plot developments even happen, but we'll talk about them, and we're also going to talk about a couple of emails and comments, feedback that we got about the first episode of Peacemaker, and at the very end, I have a little hint of what is to come. I'm going to put it at the end because it's potentially spoilerish. But there have been a couple of hints dropped by people this week that I think are like intriguing and worth mentioning, and it'll be fun to come back and revisit them later. So there'll be a possible spoiler section at the end of this conversation about the future of Peacemaker. Okay. So the episode begins months ago. Rick Flag is being sworn in as head of Argus, which, again, to remind you, is Advanced Research Group of the United States. And Economos is giving him a tour of the office when he abruptly asks for a report of his son's death. And as a result, he orders surveillance on Peacemaker's house 24/7. I gotta say, Patrick, this is a weird scene. I didn't know why they put this in here because we basically already had deduced all this from last episode. So I don't know why they felt like they need to set it up again.
I feel like this is catch up for audience, like where you cannot make a like I think there are a decent amount of people, and the show is cognizant of this, that watched Superman and then are like, great, this is the beginning like of this new universe. Oh wow, this Peacemaker show? Okay, I'll watch that. And I think it's trying to do this dance between not rehashing everything from season 1, but like being cognizant of like, well, even if you did watch Peacemaker season 1, did you watch the Suicide Squad? We're not sure. And I think it's just the show getting its ducks in a row with its various characters and where things are at. I think it's actually pretty reasonable that someone might watch Peacemaker season 2, not watch season 1, and not watch the Suicide Squad. And I think it sits awkwardly because I think it's the show trying to dance between all these weird timelines that it's
right. And it's like, hey, more screen time for Frank Grillo as the head of Argus, and he's the new kind of head of Argus. I will also say I do not buy that Frank Grillo is Joel Kinnaman's father. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
No.
Frank Grillo is 60 years old. Joel Kinnaman is 15. They look nothing alike. and Frank Grillo is only 15 years older than Joel Kinnaman's a full-grown middle-aged man,
Yes.
And Frank Grillo is styled to look younger than somebody who's 60 years old. And so it's like, it just is every time it's like, that's my son. It's like, I don't believe that that's true at all. Sorry. But anyway, back in the portal dimension, Chris tries to dispose of the dead body of his doppelganger. We'll just call it his doppelganger or other Chris. People from the other dimension will call other that person. But he has a lot of trouble, so he finally requests some help. Leota shows up, and Chris shows her the dimensional portal, and she tells him to tell Argus about the portal, or else they're going to use that as an excuse to put him into jail. Then later, Vigilante shows up with a bunch of tools to dispose of other Chris Smith's body. They successfully incinerate the body, but Chris finds his doppelganger's phone, showing him memories of him and other Harcourt. And so he decides to keep the phone, which will become a fateful decision. A new character shows up. His name is Flurry. He's played by Tim Meadows, and he shows up to join Economos in the van. Bordeaux sent him to keep an eye on Economos. Later, Flurry assembles a squad to do a sweep of Chris's house. And you seem to think that the Flurry stuff is mixed. I actually really like it. Tim Meadows plays it so dry. Like he is so straightforwardly a complete asshole with no, like, he's not breaking character at all. In a way that's, like, I would argue actually kind of different stylistically than a lot of other actors on the show. And I think it really works. I mean, he has a segment where he says he has bird blindness. He talks about what a housewarming gift is, and he says, "Hey, Peacemaker has left his house." He's like, "Let's just like wait a little bit to see if he comes back to get something," right? Which I think is actually really smart because we've seen a lot of people be foiled that way, where they don't wait and they go in and then the person comes back. That happens all the time in movies. So I actually think Flurry is showing some intelligence here.
So in case this hick is one of those people, we won't get caught with our pants down.
Patrick Klepek, let's resolve the debate once and for all. Is a housewarming gift something for somebody who has just purchased a new house, or is it just something for people who are in an existing house and it makes the house feel nice? I think it's definitely new house. In my opinion.
New house. New house.
Well, Flurry was arguing no. You can give someone a housewarming gift at any time, and the people in his crew were saying no, that's not true. It's for a new house. So
it's for a new house.
I
think you could. There's a grace period where.
Right.
Like, hey, I didn't get you anything when you bought the new house. Like, here's like a nice bottle of whiskey
maybe
or something.
Maybe a 6 to 12 month grace period where it's like during that time you can, But
no, it's new house. New house.
Okay.
New baby, I think there may be like soft resets on that timeline, like new baby, something like that. Like, like here's a thing for the house. But yeah, new house. It's new.
Agreed. So Flurry is an idiot, but I did appreciate the nicknames that he gave his squad.
Encino Man, you take the back door.
He calls them Mexicali, Pointy Boy, Titties, and Encino Man. The Encino Man one was the best one because it's like that is like a deep cut, and you need to know what that movie is and also what it's referring to really understand that reference. And I think it is very funny. But anyway,
you can't just call us that.
Yeah, you can't just call us that. So Flurry tells his team to take the house, and then Eagley comes in and just starts fucking everyone up, forcing Flurry and his team to retreat. This sequence is amazing. Eagley, in general, I think is a pretty solid CG creation.
Yeah.
And the way that he's just kind of wrecking everyone, and then it pays off the whole Flurry bird blindness thing in a really fun way. So that's basically the centerpiece of the episode is Flurry goes in, gets completely wrecked, and the bird blindness thing is set up and then paid off. And for me, that's enough to make a fun episode of the show. Not that much more, right?
Yeah, I should have seen it coming. I actually felt like by the time the attack with Eagley occurs, I'm like, I see what they're going to do here. Yeah. And I did not make that connection in the moment. I think I was just caught up between just like the really good back and forth between like these two actors where, I don't know how Gunn operates on set, but I get the sense that people kind of mostly stick to his script and there's not a ton of improvisation happening, but
I thought the whole bird blindness thing was improvised at first.
So that's what I mean. But that's what I mean. I think it's a testament to, I think, Gunn's sense of humor and the way actors feel comfortable on set. He often gets actors with comedic leanings to act in a way that feels as though it's improv. And yet my sense is that no, they're just reading his jokes and it comes across as just riffing and improv. And there's a great, I recommend people, I don't like to watch like the teasers for the next episode after I watch it, but there are quote post-credit scenes, but they're just comedic stingers. You're not missing anything that's setting up the season, at least not so far. I recommend, if you watch this episode, cut through the credits, for, a minute and a half until you get an extended version of an interaction between those two characters that is very good.
So Flurry and his team retreat, and at the same time as all this stuff is happening, the Project Butterfly team, aka the 11th Street Kids, reunite on Harcourt's roof. Chris tries to bond with Harcourt, but it doesn't go well. When he returns home drunk, he doesn't even realize that his house has been invaded, thinking Eagley is the one who trashed it. He decides to text other Harcourt from his phone, from the doppelganger's phone, but then realizing the phone won't work in his dimension, he wanders into the alternate dimension where his father is frantically searching for other Chris. And then the text goes through, and then he receives a text back saying, "Hey," with a heartbreak emoji. So that's how that plotline ends. There's also a brief scene in the episode where Lee goes back to her ex's place, and her ex is pissed that she came over, and talks about the plans they were supposed to make together. "We were supposed to be going back to Gotham. And now what? You're staying here to start a security business," she says. Reminding you, hey, this takes place in the same universe as Batman, guys. Even though we haven't seen Batman show up yet. But
I feel like there's been a couple of fun instances. Both there's a panning shot in Superman across a freeway where it shows an exit to Gotham. Right. Gotham and Metropolis have always been kind of sort of a San Francisco and Oakland geographic setup. And that Gotham one just feels like it's like, it feels a little bit like just thrown in there. By the way, now that Gunn's in charge, he can say Gotham. Like, it's got to get one Gotham in there. But it made me laugh.
My wife got so pissed at Batman v Superman because the idea is that Gotham and Metropolis are like literally across. They're like right next to each other. And my wife watched it and she said, "There's no way that two cities that close to each other wouldn't just be one city." So I don't know if Gotham is this. I'm guessing James Gunn is going to change the geography of Gotham and Metropolis in this one, is my guess. We'll see. Any other thoughts on the episode, Patrick, before we get to feedback and other potential spoilery things?
I guess I'll just say, I poked fun at, and part of this depends on how it all lands, but I am encouraged so far that it was very easy to poke fun at James Gunn over like all these multiverse stories, but mine's the good one. And I've liked various multiverse stories over the last decade. Like, some have hit better than others, but the most intriguing part of the multiverse concept is a chance to see a window of a different version of yourself.
Yeah.
And how seductive that might be.
Yep.
A chance to be with others that aren't in your life through separation or death. And I only watched, really discussed the opening of Marvel's Ironheart series. I expressed concerns over whether they're going to fully explore that concept with a character in that show, and I thought they basically didn't. I thought I didn't like that show basically at all. By the end of it, unfortunately. But one of the things that disappointed me the most was this is such a great setup for an exploration of, in an age of chatbots and LLMs. If you could just bring back somebody that meant the world to you and you couldn't really tell the difference, what would you do? That is a really interesting idea, and the multiverse is an extension of that. And so far, Peacemaker doesn't seem to be using the multiverse as an opportunity for cameos, which is fun. I liked, Spider-Man No Way Home a lot. Had a great time watching it. But emotionally, it's an opportunity to peer into a world of a different version of yourself and a different way things could have gone, or to be with people who you don't have anymore. And that is fucking seductive. And I think Peacemaker seems to understand that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Makes me that's what I mean by the somber, melancholy, sad. I feel like that's seductive, but in a parasitic way. And I think Peacemaker season 2 is going to explore that quite thoroughly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very moving scene where Chris is sitting at home with the phone, and he's looking over the memories, and he's seeing the memories of other him that they had with Harcourt, and it's this whole life that he never lived. And I'm sure we have all imagined at one point the lives that we never lived, and it's very sad and occasionally exciting, but like I think overall it's sad, and but I don't know that the show's gonna end that way. Like the first season was so like ended on such like an uplifting, positive note. And in general, James Gunn stuff, it can go into sad places, but it doesn't generally leave you feeling like shit.
I think he's an optimist by nature. I think it's why him matched with Superman was a really good pairing, because I think that's just in his blood, is that he likes to view the world through a like could be optimistic lens.
All right, Patrick, let's get to some comments and feedback. You can always write into us at decodingtv@gmail.com or comment at decodingtv.com. Danny comments at decodingtv.com. I find it interesting that the new DCU has begun with an MA-rated cartoon, a PG-13 Superman movie that really earns the rating, and an MA-rated TV show that features a graphic orgy in the first episode. The next movie is Supergirl, who is featured as a drunk frat girl type character in Superman, and Clayface, a body horror R-rated movie with Mike Flanagan as writer. It's a very interesting start to the DCU. Feels very adult and not family friendly. At the same time, I don't know that I would describe any MCU movie / show as family friendly. End quote. It's interesting. As Danny lays it out, it does sound very non-family friendly. Here's the thing: I don't think Zack Snyder's version of this was family friendly either. So this is just kind of not family friendly in a different way, if you think about it, right, Patrick Klepek? I would say it is more family friendly. Excluding Peacemaker, I would say it's more family friendly than Zack Snyderverse movies, personally.
I think that is probably true. I think my hunch is that the universe Gunn is building is where a lot of the different tone, like if you want to follow the main thread, like what is the arc of Gods and Monsters, and like whether this is culminating in Justice League or something else, you can just watch the films. Yeah. And like those are going to be PG-13 adjacent, right? It's going to push it harder than Marvel stuff does. Like the Lex Luthor scene, that we've talked about in the past. Like it's going to push, like not quite to R, but it's going to push the PG-13. But I think you'll be, in theory, safe narratively to just watch like Superman, then Supergirl, then like wherever this stuff goes from here. You can skip Clayface. Like it introduces and all this stuff is adjacent and world building and fits in like different pieces that are interesting and fun. But you can get by with taking your kids to Superman, Supergirl, and these big tentpole films that like Gunn is at the center of, and you'll be just fine when we get to like the climactic moment of like what all that stuff is building towards. I think that's his vision, and I think like that's, if anything, like the harsher tone of a Peacemaker is like setting up like, by the way, like we're not screwing around. Like the tones are going to be different. Like the themes are going to be different. The violence is going to be different. Like, but if you stick here, you'll be fine. Like you'll be able to enjoy the story that's being told. I think in theory, that's the project that he's building.
Yeah, I think that sounds right to me, Patrick Klepek. Aaron writes into decodingtv@gmail.com. Love the show. I'm listening to your coverage of the Peacemaker Season 2 premiere, and I agree it's a fascinating crossover event with a very smooth transition from big screen thanks to the Superman connections. That said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Creature Commandos. I feel like it's been largely overlooked, even though it's arguably an even more monumental event. Has there ever been another project that shifts from animation to live action within a shared universe? That alone feels unprecedented. The series features major actors like David Harbour, Frank Grillo, and Viola Davis doing the voice work, and we've already seen some of them carry those roles into live action. Frank Grillo, for example, appeared in Superman and now in Peacemaker. The show also seems to be doing heavy lifting and smoothing over canon between the old DCEU and the new DCU. For instance, it confirms the events like Rick Flag Jr.'s death at the hands of Peacemaker remains part of the continuity. End quote. Anyway, he goes on a little bit to explain why he thinks Creature Commando is excellent. James Gunn has said the series is canon. And he says, I'd really love to hear you guys dive into this, not just because the show itself is great, but because of what it represents. A bold experiment in blending animation and live action within one universe, elevating animation by bringing in high-profile actors for both voice and live roles, and deliberately positioning it as adult storytelling rather than as a kid-friendly side project, end quote. Again, kind of going to your point there about the sort of adult orientation of a lot of these TV properties. Patrick Klepek, did you ever get into Creature Commandos? I've heard good things. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, I watched the first couple episodes and then just fell off it for no particularly good reason. Like, you fall off any TV show. But I quite liked the first couple episodes, and maybe like in the run up to Supergirl or something, like that'll be, a reason to get back to it. I think it's interesting. It's ambitious. I think it's a little misguided. And some of that is informed by Gunn talking in public about wanting that crossover between actor and canon.
He wants the same actor to play that character across all media, like movies,
animation,
TV shows,
movie,
animation.
And video games is the one
Video
where I'm
games,
like, buddy, I know that you were creatively involved in Lollipop Chainsaw. So he's been, and that has like, it's a really interesting game, really interesting storytelling, subversion of sexuality that happens in that game. They put out a pretty bad remaster of it semi recently. But like, just video games are just a completely different animal beast in terms of like trying to logistically. Like, I'm not saying making a movie is easy, but there's more of a process to follow once you have a script that is just not the same as a video game. And so I think he's going to find that as a harder challenge to pull off with making video games. But like in the scope of animation and film and live action, you know, it's a cool idea. Feels like it starts to go off the rails pretty quickly as scope expands. But right now, as Gunn is writing, directing, like doing like kind of as much as one person singularly can, like so far the quality level is pretty high. So don't kill yourself doing it. But I'm really enjoying it.
Theoretically, Creature Commandos season 2 is going to happen, but there has been no announced date yet.
No.
For when it comes back. So that would also be another opportunity to revisit that show is when season 2 comes around. But yeah, I think we'll try to, like, now that James Gunn's DCU seems like it's going to be a thing, worth investing more time into getting to know it a little bit, right? Like before Superman came out, we had no idea if this was ever going to happen. But Superman was a pretty solid success. And so I think we're going to get at least a few more James Gunn movies out of it. And that's exciting. All right, Patrick Klepek, it's time to get to the potentially spoilery part of our Peacemaker Season 2 conversation. And so if you are really adverse to future Peacemaker 2 spoilers, you should tune out. I will say Patrick Klepek and I have not received the Peacemaker Season 2 episode, so we don't know anything about what's going to happen. But we did get a couple of hints about what's to come in this interview with Steve Agee, who plays John Economos from Hollywood Reporter. Very funny interview. Fascinating to hear him talk about how he did the shark motion capture acting in the Suicide Squad. He also, I actually started rewatching Suicide Squad recently, and Harcourt and Economos are there, right? Like they're in the background. Amanda Waller is commanding them, like they're there, and he says that the Economos stuff took a week worth of work for the Suicide Squad, but then he ended up being the motion capture for the shark for like basically the whole shoot. That was voiced by Sylvester Stallone. So that was interesting. I thought this bit was funny. The season 2 premiere leads to a lot of unclothed people in a group sex scene. How bizarre was that day on set? And Steve Agee says, it was one of the most bizarre shooting experiences of my life. I got a script that said, John Economos comes up to the window of a Peacemaker's house and looks through it to see an orgy happening. In your head, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be shot like any other sex scene. They're going to find creative ways of hiding the nudity. It'll probably be like 6 to 10 people, mostly women. But when I showed up on set, the first shot of Economos walking up to the window and looking in was also my first time realizing what shit was going to look like on the show. I was legitimately shocked. There were 30 people in that living room, fully naked guys and girls were all doing very sexual things, and some were dancing. So I just remember thinking, I can't believe they can show this on TV now. That was a really surreal day for me. All right. So the other thing that I think is kind of interesting about this interview is there is a reference he makes to the last 3 episodes, right? So
Gunn has done this as well. He has called episodes 6 through 8 his favorite thing he has ever done, and he has basically not shown it to many people.
Right. He says, Steve Agee says, the last 3 episodes are almost like a whole new season. They are absolutely insane, and they're absolutely insane. That's what he says, end quote. Okay. Separately, Patrick Klepek, I received an email from a PR company this week. And so the idea, how this works is PR companies represent different people involved at different parts of the process. So you'll have a PR company that represents James Gunn, and you'll have a PR company that represents the composer of Peacemaker, and a different PR company that represents the people who did the sound for Peacemaker, right, and so on, right? And all the PR companies are trying to get their clients PR. So I got this email from this PR company who represents the sound people for Peacemaker. And this email read, Hi, with HBO's Peacemaker Season 2, James Gunn's wild ride starring John Cena now streaming, we'd love to gauge your interest in speaking with its dynamic sound team, supervising sound editor Peter Brown, and re-recording mixers Joe Barnett and Adam Jenkins. And then it goes in a little bit to their backgrounds, and obviously they're very talented. They've worked in other shows like The Mandalorian and so forth. And the email concludes thusly: their work transforms the 11th Street Kids' fractured dynamic into a living, breathing pulse, culminating in a final 3 episodes that feel like a sonic reinvention of the series itself, end quote. So we've now gotten multiple sources saying the final 3 episodes are going to be off the hook, right? James Gunn, Steve Agee, and the PR person for the sound people behind Peacemaker. Again, Patrick Klepek and I have no idea what is going to happen, but I do just think it's interesting. It's rare to see a show talked about in these terms, right?
Yes. One thing, this is just pure speculation, but Gunn has talked about how Peacemaker and Superman were shot right next to each other. So there were times where things would be happening on the Superman set that he didn't have to like personally direct, and he'd be off doing stuff on the Peacemaker set. Like this stuff was happening concurrently, which is why they were able to come out so closely together. It's not going to shock me if in episodes 6 to 8 almost become like a tiny DCU film, right? Like I sort of expect Superman to show up.
Potentially,
I expect that to be part of what happens in the final couple episodes of the show.
Because I will say, so far, yes, there's been some action scenes in Peacemaker Season 2, episodes 1 and 2, but like it's been pretty limited. It feels a lot like Peacemaker Season 1, right? So far, in my opinion. And the Eagley stuff was kind of cool, but nothing I would describe as technically ambitious, other than the Eagley CG maybe a little bit, right? You know what I'm saying?
Which is also fine, right? Like I mean, part of the problem totally the Marvel stuff has run into is the attempts to be tiny TV, tiny movies, and so like grounding Peacemaker is great, but it really does, like, you get the sense that, look, he got the keys to the kingdom. He is going, like, who knows how long that is going to last, right? And kind of get the sense that James Gunn unleashed himself on episodes 6 through 8, which is interesting because he's also separately talked about how writing Peacemaker Season 2 is really tough. Like, he wrote Superman, Peacemaker Season 2, Creature Commandos, like all in this like 1 year stretch. He didn't really know what he wanted to say in Season 2 of Peacemaker. He was like writing it while he was on vacation with his wife in Hawaii and just sort of like cranking out pages like in a hotel. Like, it's just all really interesting. And I feel like he's kind of laying it out there. And there's a bit of the process of becoming this studio head and building this universe that I think is going to be expressed partially through Peacemaker Season 2. And I don't know, it sounds like I'm getting the sense he gets to go into a toy box in episode 6, 7, and 8.
I mean, he's like Babe Ruth pointing at the stands and saying, like, I'm going to hit a home run. And we will decide collectively whether he actually succeeds. So that's very exciting. But we're 2 episodes in, so we have another 4 episodes until we get to the first of the final 3 episodes.
Fascinating. It sort of sounds like we're like separate season makes it sound like we're going to wrap up.
Right.
Like the Peacemaker
story. Yeah.
The story. Like, if you've seen, I haven't watched every trailer for Peacemaker, but like there are, the trailers suggest like, we got to go get Chris back. You know what I mean? Like we're going to like, and I feel like that, like Chris and this alternate universe and his family there feels like that's all going to resolve itself to some degree to open itself up to some other bigger conflict. So I'm excited.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.